Humans get angry, and the universe isn't prepared. Part 1, First Contact. The morning started like any other at the Global Astronomical Research Center in Busan. Jun Park sipped his lukewarm coffee, his eyes fixed on the massive monitoring screens that stretched across the wall. Outside, the city hummed with its usual morning rhythm. Delivery scooters weaving through streets, street vendors setting up their morning stands, and the distant sound of construction. Nobody expected anything extraordinary that day. Nobody, except Jun. He'd been tracking something unusual for weeks, a slight disturbance in the outer atmospheric readings that didn't match any known satellite or space debris patterns. His colleagues thought he was chasing shadows, another caffeine-fueled scientist with wild theories. But Jun knew something was different. The first sign came quietly, a slight shimmer in the sky, almost like heat waves on a summer road, but this was different. Electronic systems began to flutter, cell phones flickered, traffic lights blinked, and for a split second the world seemed to hold its breath. System anomaly detected, the computer's monotone voice announced. Jun's team gathered around, a mix of excitement and nervous tension filling the room. Young researchers, veteran scientists and technical experts huddled together, their eyes locked on the screens. Then it happened. A massive vessel appeared, not with dramatic explosions or Hollywood-style entrance, but with an eerie silence that was more terrifying than any sound could be. It wasn't sleek or menacing like sci-fi movies portrayed. Instead, it looked organic, almost living, with surfaces that seemed to breathe and shift. The Krenal ship, though they didn't know its name then, hung in the atmosphere like an impossible cloud. No dramatic weapons, no immediate threats, just presence, pure, overwhelming presence. Jun's hands moved across the keyboard, capturing every microscopic detail. Years of training, countless nights of research, and an intuition that went beyond scientific method told him this was different. This wasn't just another astronomical event. "Are you seeing this?" he muttered, more to himself than his colleagues. The ship didn't communicate. It didn't shoot. It simply existed, challenging everything humanity understood about space, technology, and our place in the universe. In government buildings across the world, emergency meetings erupted. Military strategists, politicians, and scientific experts scrambled to understand this unexpected visitor. News networks went into overdrive, broadcasting grainy footage and speculative reports. But in that research center in Busan, Jun understood something fundamental. This was just the beginning. The Krenal didn't know it yet, but they had made a critical mistake. They had approached a species they didn't understand, a species that, when challenged, didn't break. A species that would fight back with everything they had. Humanity wasn't just going to roll over and accept an alien presence. They were going to respond, and that response would shake the foundations of everything the Krenal believed they knew about conquest. Jun looked around the room, at the mix of nationalities, backgrounds, and expertise. Young researchers from Seoul, veteran scientists from Daegu, technical experts from Incheon. They represented something the Krenal couldn't comprehend: unity in diversity, strength in collaboration. As the alien ship continued its silent vigil, Jun knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was going to be a story unlike any other. Humanity was about to show the universe what they were made of, and the Krenal. They had no idea what was coming. Would you like me to continue with the next part, maintaining the same engaging and human-centric narrative style? Humans get angry, and the universe isn't prepared. Part 2. Technological Response. Yoona Kim's workspace looked like controlled chaos. Sticky notes covered every inch of her glass-walled research lab. Circuit boards sprawled across tables, and half-empty coffee cups told stories of countless sleepless nights. She wasn't just a scientist. She was a problem solver with fire in her eyes and determination etched into every movement. The global research community had transformed overnight. What was once competitive and segmented now became a unified front. Universities, tech companies, government research centers, everyone understood this was bigger than national pride. This was about human survival. In a small workshop just outside, Seoul, Yoona and her team were doing something unprecedented. They were designing a technological shield that could adapt faster than any known computational system. Traditional defense mechanisms were linear. They responded to threats with preset protocols. But humans, they were anything but predictable. "We're not building a wall," Yuna would tell her team. "We're building a living, breathing response system." Her team was a mosaic of brilliance. There was Sung Ho, a quantum physics prodigy who could solve complex mathematical equations in his head. Minji, an electrical engineering expert who could rewire entire communication systems in minutes. And Jae Wook, a software engineer who viewed code like an artist views a blank canvas. They worked in shifts, fueled by a combination of energy drinks, determination, and an underlying current of protective anger. The Krenal might have thought humans were primitive, but they were, about to learn a harsh lesson about human innovation. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a late-night debugging session, Sung Ho noticed something peculiar in the alien communication patterns. Most scientists would have overlooked it, a microscopic fluctuation that seemed random. But Yuna saw something else, a pattern within, the randomness. It's not random, she realized. It's a language, a computational language. What followed was a marathon of coding, simulation, and relentless testing. They weren't just creating a defensive system. They were learning an entirely new form of communication and technological interaction. Global resources poured in. Tech giants put aside competitive rivalries. Governments released classified research. Universities opened their most secure databases. Humanity was presenting a united technological front for the first time in history. The shield they were developing wasn't just about blocking alien technology. It was about understanding, adapting, and ultimately outsmarting an unknown threat. Yuna remembered her grandmother's stories about survival, how previous generations had transformed Korea from a war-torn country to a technological powerhouse. Those stories weren't just history, they were a blueprint for facing the impossible. "We're not just defending," she would tell her team, "we're communicating. We're showing them that humanity is more than they understand." Each line of code was a statement, each algorithm a declaration. They were writing humanity's response to an alien challenge, and they were doing it with a creativity that no preset computational system could predict. The first test of their adaptive shield would come soon, and the Krenal, for all their technological superiority, had no idea what was coming. Humanity was ready, not with aggression but with intelligence, not with fear but with an unbreakable spirit of innovation. The technological response was being prepared. And it would change everything. Would you like me to continue with the next part, maintaining the same engaging and human-centric narrative style? Humans get angry, and the universe isn't prepared. Part 3. Psychological Resistance. Hyun-Lee wasn't a typical military strategist. Standing in the Global Defense Command Center, he looked more like a university professor than a hardened military expert. His glasses were slightly crooked, his jacket rumpled, but his eyes burned, with an intensity that caught everyone's attention. "Emotion is our greatest weapon," he explained to a room full of skeptical military leaders and international diplomats. "The Krenal understand technology. They understand physical combat, but they don't understand human spirit." The room was silent. People from different nations, different backgrounds, all united by one fundamental understanding. They were facing something beyond traditional warfare. Hyun had spent years studying human psychology under extreme conditions. He'd researched survivors of natural disasters, war veterans, and communities that had faced seemingly impossible challenges. What he discovered was something the Krenal could never comprehend. Humans didn't break. They adapted. In small communities around the world, something extraordinary was happening. Local neighborhoods were organizing. Schools were conducting emergency preparedness drills. Families were having conversations about unity and resilience. A grandmother in Busan taught her grandchildren about their family's history of survival through difficult times. A teacher in a rural mountain school explained to her students how communities come together during challenges. A factory worker in an industrial town shared stories of innovation and hope. These weren't just conversations. They were psychological fortifications. The Krenal had made a critical miscalculation. They thought fear would paralyze humans. Instead, it was doing the opposite. Fear was transforming into determination. Uncertainty was becoming a source of strength. Social media became an unexpected battlefield. Instead of panic, people shared stories of hope. Memes became psychological weapons. Humor became a shield against fear. Communities found strength in shared experiences. We're not just resisting, Hyun would later explain in his breakthrough. Research, we're transforming negative energy into collective resilience. Young people were particularly powerful. They didn't see the Krennel as an insurmountable threat. They saw a challenge to be solved, an opportunity to demonstrate human potential. Engineering students were designing innovative defense mechanisms. Psychology students were analyzing alien communication patterns. Artists were creating visual narratives that transformed fear into hope. In universities, research centers, and community halls, a new language of resistance was being developed. It wasn't about aggression. It was about understanding, adapting, and ultimately overcoming. The Krennel had data. Humans had stories. The Krennel had technology. Humans had imagination. Hyun understood something fundamental. Psychological resistance wasn't about fighting. It was about believing in each other, believing in human potential. They think they can break our spirit, he would tell his team. But they don't understand that our spirit is our greatest strength. Every conversation, every shared moment of understanding was a blow against the alien strategy. Every laugh, every moment of human connection was a weapon more powerful than any technology. The psychological resistance had begun, and the Krennel had no idea what was coming. Humanity wasn't just preparing to fight, they were preparing to transform. Would you like me to continue with the next part, maintaining the same engaging and human-centric narrative style? So humans get angry and the universe isn't prepared. Part 4. Critical infiltration. Seok-cho never considered himself a hero. He was just a guy who grew up in a small coastal town, worked hard, and believed in doing the right thing. Now he was leading the most critical mission in human history. The infiltration team looked nothing like traditional military units. They were a mix of backgrounds: a former deep-sea marine biologist, a quantum computing expert, an emergency room nurse, and a mechanical engineer. Each brought something unique to the mission, their target. The primary Krennel command ship floating silently above Earth's atmosphere. Preparation had been months in the making. Every detail was meticulously planned. Yuna's adaptive shield technology, Hyun's psychological strategies, Jun's initial research, everything converged into this moment. The ship looked impossible. Its surface seemed to breathe, shift, and change. Traditional entry methods would be suicide, but humans weren't about to play by traditional rules. "We're not breaking in," Seok explained during the final briefing. "We're going to make them invite us in." Their strategy was brilliantly simple and incredibly complex. They would use the Krennel's own communication systems against them. The team had spent months studying alien communication patterns, learning to mimic their computational language, their subtle communication nuances. Minji, the team's communication specialist, had developed an infiltration algorithm that was part science, part art. It wasn't just about hacking. It was about understanding, manipulating, and ultimately outsmarting an advanced alien communication system. The first phase was subtle, small signal manipulations that would seem like minor technical glitches. A communication delay here, a system, flutter there. The Krennel would think it was a minor technical issue, but each glitch was carefully designed. Each interruption was a strategic move. Sung-ho, the quantum expert, had developed a computational camouflage that would make their signals appear as routine maintenance communications. They weren't breaking in, they were becoming part of the system. As they approached the ship, tension was high. But there was no fear, only determination. "We're representing every person back home," Seok told his team. "Every kid, every parent, every person who believes in human potential." The infiltration wasn't just a military mission, it was a statement. A declaration that humanity wouldn't be intimidated, that they would fight on their own terms. Hours passed. Minutes felt like centuries. The team moved carefully, each movement calculated. They weren't just collecting information, they were sending a message. And then unexpectedly they were in. The Krenal Command Center looked nothing like human expectations. It was organic, fluid, almost alive. Biological technology that seemed to breathe and pulse with its own rhythm. But human ingenuity was about to show its true power. Siok looked at his team. They had done the impossible. They had entered a system that was supposed to be impenetrable, not through brute force but through intelligence, creativity, and an unbreakable human spirit. The infiltration was complete, and the Krenal had no idea what was coming next. Humanity was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. Would you like me to continue with the final part, maintaining the same engaging and human-centric narrative style? Humans get angry and the universe isn't prepared. As Part 5, Cosmic Transformation. Yunji Rodriguez stood at the Global Diplomatic Center, watching screens that showed a transformation nobody could have predicted. The world had changed, and humanity had rewritten the rules of cosmic engagement. The HFY infiltration wasn't just a military victory. It was a complete redefinition of interstellar relationships. News broadcasts showed scenes of unprecedented unity. Cities that once competed now collaborated. Nations that had historical conflicts now worked together like a single organism. The Krenal invasion had done something remarkable. It had unified humanity in a way no previous event ever could. We're not just defending, Yunji told the assembled global leaders. We're evolving. The information gathered during the infiltration was more than just strategic data. It was a complete blueprint of alien communication, technological systems, and social structures. Humanity had done more than resist. They had completely understood their potential adversary. Research centers around the world were buzzing. Universities opened new departments dedicated to extraterrestrial studies. Young students who once dreamed of space exploration now had a tangible goal. The impossible had become possible. What the Krenal didn't understand was human adaptability. Where other species might have collapsed under pressure, humans transformed. Every challenge became an opportunity. Every obstacle became a chance to innovate. The technological breakthroughs were extraordinary. Yuna's adaptive shield technology was now being studied as a potential solution for global challenges, from climate adaptation to medical treatments. Siok's infiltration strategies were rewriting military engagement protocols. But the real transformation was deeper. Humanity had proven something fundamental to the universe. They were not just survivors, they were creators, innovators, a species that could turn potential destruction into an opportunity for growth. Global communication networks showed something unprecedented. Instead of fear, there was excitement. People weren't talking about invasion, they were discussing possibilities. What could humanity learn? How could they grow? What new frontiers could they explore? Schools started introducing new curriculum, focusing on adaptability, innovation, and cross-cultural understanding. Children were learning that diversity was strength, that collaboration was more powerful than competition. The Krenal Confederation, once considered an unbeatable force, was now at the negotiation table, not through military might, but through human intelligence and diplomatic creativity. Yunji understood this was more than a victory. It was a cosmic reset. We're not just defending our planet, she would later write in her groundbreaking research. We're demonstrating what's possible when a species decides to work together. Conferences were held, research was shared, the boundaries between scientific disciplines blurred. A marine biologist might work alongside a quantum physicist. An artist might provide insights that a military strategist missed. The universe had presented humanity with a challenge, and humanity had responded with something more powerful than any weapon. Collective intelligence. Jun, Yuna, Hyun, Siok, and Yun. They weren't just individuals anymore. They represented something larger, a species that refused to be defined by limitations, a civilization that turned challenges into opportunities. The cosmic transformation was complete, and the universe would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, not with weapons, not with aggression, but with an unbreakable spirit of innovation, unity, and hope. The story was just beginning. Would you like me to provide any additional details or refine any aspect of the narrative